Sarah and I met in college when we were kids. She was an extremely authentic, warm, kind person with a very laid-back disposition, just a delightful nature. She was also extremely bright and very funny, tremendous mom and wife. She was a very healthy person, a very fit person, but shockingly we discovered Sarah had gastric cancer.
I do remember a flurry of emails asking me to come see Sarah. When I met her, she's just absolutely lovely person, a young woman with a devoted husband and young kids, and bad cancer. We had hoped that she might have a disease that could be removed, but sure enough, when they went in to do the surgery, they did in fact find the cancer that had already spread.
No one's prepared for that. There's no earthquake kit. The whole world changes on a dime. We started treatment as quickly as possible.
Sarah and Jeff are not unlike many other patients I've cared for who took that news, processed it, shed some tears, and then decided, okay, so what do we have to do about it?
Chemotherapy is not a long-term answer for the situation we were in. We were doing a lot of research to try to figure out something long-term.
My first contact with Jeff was a long phone call that we had to talk about Sarah and his worries about her at the very beginning of her diagnosis. Jeff was passionate and motivated about learning about cancer and about stomach cancer in particular, and really trying to push the envelope about new experimental therapies. So I was impressed with his knowledge and his really fierce desire to help Sarah.
I think Jeff had an even keel in exploring different options and evaluating those options, and always having sort of the positive bent that research is valuable, learning is valuable, and it helps my wife. That's what I want more than anything. But if it doesn't help somebody else, it's all good.
It seemed to us through research we were doing that the most hopeful things that existed in the world of cancer treatment couldn't be accessed by gastric cancer patients. And that's really what got us thinking about trying to launch a trial to try to liberate some of these incredibly hopeful medicines that were out there being used in other diseases.
So Jeff and I had a discussion about various clinical research ideas, various drugs that were looking promising, and we came upon two. We talked a little bit about how we might combine those two drugs for patients like Sarah, and we started that process.
Jeff had been mobilizing his network and had an idea around a trial for stomach cancer that used immunotherapy. This actually involved having conversations with two different companies.
And Incyte and Merck connected, and they both agreed in principle to the idea of donating drugs for a gastric cancer trial that was extremely, I'm sure as you can understand, extremely hopeful and exciting to us.
I really value Jeff for initially bringing this idea and bringing the players together. And then it was up to the team at Stanford to help bring that to completion. My role in the clinical trial is as the principal investigator. So I am the lead and in charge of developing the clinical trial, designing the trial, and implementing it and taking care of patients on the trial.
So there are several types of clinical trials. Some are developed by the pharmaceutical company. The one that we're very interested in are investigator-initiated trials. And those are trials when a member of the faculty or a clinical researcher decides that they have a good idea. So that type of trial, which we think is the most important actually in getting new ideas into the clinical trial arena, that type requires several sources of funding usually.
The pharmaceutical companies were graciously willing to donate the medicines, but they weren't paying for the trial. It needed to be funded privately.
Oftentimes breast, colon, prostate, lung are the first ones to be tested with a new drug. But there's a big gap, and the big gap is looking at the small 10, 15, 20 patient trials that can give a proof of principle.
As government funding and industry funding becomes tighter, it becomes critical for us to find other ways to fund clinical research.
Philanthropy is probably the most critical piece of clinical trials, for specific trials, but also in general, because the infrastructure also requires funding. The coordinators, the data managers, the people doing the budget, the safety people, the regulatory people. It takes a village really to carry out a number of clinical trials at the same time.
The people that I reached out to were incredibly, inspirationally willing to help.
Jeff was, of course, devoted to turning over each and every stone he could find that might have some possible treatment that would provide benefit, and which we had hoped we would be able to keep Sarah well. But there comes a time where thinking about future trials is not a realistic expectation.
My wife was a very wise person. As always, she made her own choices, called her own shots, and she felt at one point that it was time to stop. Time is precious. Time to enjoy a nice summer at home. She was a lot more rational about all this than I was. And she knew, and she was right.
I'd like to think in all the work that we do now on gastric cancer that we honor Sarah's memory with that work. Now, not all of our work will be successful, but it'll make an incremental gain and maybe someday a big gain in a tough disease.
This combination of immunotherapy agents holds a lot of promise for this particular patient population. And though it's a small study, what I think Stanford really hopes to contribute is a lot of the basic biology or basic science information that we'll learn from this.
Without clinical trials, I think we would be at a static point in our ability to care for patients. Clinical trials are what really enable us to push the field forward to do better than we're doing now. And that's why we're all here. We want to be able to treat patients better in the future than we can at present.
Extremely hopeful, as was Sarah, that this could really be a game changer for someone. Stanford put their arms around us. For us to give back, I think, is the kind of legacy I would want for Sarah. And knowing that this trial is largely opening because of her, it means the world to me. It gave her a tremendous amount of peace to think that something we worked on together might help someone else.
Emily was born 8 weeks early. She spent 30 days in the NICU as a baby, but after that, she has grown and prospered. She's always been a very outgoing, outspoken child who nothing slowed her down, that her self-confidence was high, her motivation was ready to rock and roll. Let's take on this challenge, let's take on that challenge. The first time we truly noticed something wrong with Emily's health was a couple of days after we went roller skating. She ended up with a big knot underneath her right kneecap. We took action and saw orthopedists and MRIs. Emily was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma in the right tibia of her leg. The tumor was inside the bone, which affects the bone and the soft tissue around it.
I just called my best friend and said, "Hey, I got cancer. Can you come over?" I was like, my cousins, my friends, my parents, they need me, and my dog. They gotta have me. If they don't have me, they're gonna be a wreck.
Emily is a patient of mine that was diagnosed in 2019 with a Ewing sarcoma, which is one of the more common bone tumors that we see in children. Her treatment required very intensive chemotherapy as well as surgery to remove her tumor. Ultimately, the surgery she required was amputation of her lower leg.
It took us a little while to accept, which of course we all resisted. There was a great deal of sadness. Overall, she handled it like a champ, which I'm very proud of her for, because she handled most days better than I probably ever would have, especially at that age.
Emily, due to her amputation, had basically to learn how to walk again. During her treatments, because she had to be in a bed a lot, she lost a lot of strength. And then after a period of time of healing, she was fitted with a prosthesis, and she basically had to learn how to walk on that prosthesis. And that's where physical therapy was extremely important in her care.
When I met Emily, she had her first prosthetic and she was getting used to wearing it. She was not shy at that time to let me know that she did not love having it on. So what we really targeted to kind of make her comfortable was working on her strength, because if you're learning to balance and walk again with a prosthetic limb, you have to have a lot of strength in your core and your hips. So that's really what we targeted first. And then in hand with that, we worked on her getting used to wearing a prosthetic limb, doing some standing with it. And then from there, she was pretty much ready. Once she figured out that she could stand and weight shift, she was like, all right, let's do some more walking. And she was getting confident. It really, anything we worked on, they really pushed it home.
Emily had a very, very difficult journey with her cancer treatment, but she is a wonderful kid and has a lot of heart and is very tough. And her family was super supportive and helped her get through it. And now she is in a really good place. And when she comes to see us and is walking on her prosthetic leg and she's all smiles and happy and doing so well, it really warms our heart. Emily is doing very well now and has no evidence of cancer at this time. Here at Prisma Health Children's Hospital of the Midlands, we have a pediatric hematology and oncology center. We provide care to children in the Midlands and around South Carolina who have blood disorders and also who have cancer. We're a multidisciplinary clinic, so we provide oncology care through a physician. We have nurses who are trained in administering chemotherapy. We have Child Life, whose area of expertise is taking care of children with cancer and blood disorders. We have a psychosocial team. We have a whole staff that is responsible and cares significantly about our patients and their families and helping them get through what is a very, very tough journey.
Emily is currently in her status of recovery. Sees Miss Bethany once a week in her physical therapy clinic. She is walking and learning to accept new challenges in her prosthesis. She's also still in her every 3-month oncology appointments. She is doing great.
I am back to walking, swimming. I went parasailing. I've gone bowling. My care at Prisma Health was the best that I could have imagined. It was nice because I had the greatest nurses, the best doctors, and best friends that I could have met.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Sawyer and Saxon. Happy birthday to
That's me, Makari, and that's Sawyer and Saxton, two of my favorite twins. We're neighbors and friends, but our stories go way deeper than that. We are a part of the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center family.
Makari is strong, intelligent, and beautiful.
She's an awesome person. She has a heart of gold. She was always singing, performing. She was just a little star.
She auditioned for Lion King, and then she had to go and do other auditions, and finally she booked. So she went on tour with the Lion King.
I've known the Tire Police since before the boys were born. And they're just an amazing family. And the best part is they love music too.
Just like us.
A little bit before Sawyer and Saxton were born, my husband and I were expecting a set of twins, and we had a devastating loss. I nearly lost my life, and we unfortunately lost our babies. And so when we got pregnant with Saxton and Sawyer, we were thrilled and delighted, and had a beautiful pregnancy. And they got here, and then we got the news that Sawyer had sickle cell anemia SS. When we found out that he was diagnosed, I felt like I watched his entire life kind of flash before my eyes. I knew that what came with the disease would hinder him and make his life very difficult.
I remember asking you one time, what does it feel like? Mm-hmm. And she told me, imagine your foot falling asleep real bad. You know how painful that is. It feels like needles. Now amplify that and put that all over your body. I really did feel like my son had a death sentence.
And his doctor was like, the best thing for us to do is to get him the best care, which is how we came into the hands of the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center. When the doctors sat down and talked to me about Sawyer and the option for a bone marrow transplant, she was like, it's not a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. The best possible option for this is a sibling donor match, which means same mother, same father. So we'll get Saxton tested and we'll see. And what seemed like a year to me, his lead doctor called. She was like, you normally don't get these calls from me, but I'm so excited. I want to say, congratulations, Mrs. Guillory. Saxton was a perfect HLA match for Sawyer. I hit the floor, I cried. I remember telling her thank you. I literally felt the weight lift from my shoulders. It gave me a sense of hope.
Makari was 15 years old when she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Well, we thought it was initially a thyroid issue, and then to go to the cancer side of that, what do? You never prepared for that.
Right when she gets diagnosed, everything shuts down because of COVID. Yeah. So now it's like she has to go into a hospital several times a week, and there's this crazy virus going around, and she's gonna be immune deficient.
My understanding of cancer before was just like what you see in the movies and just this awful and gloomy time. And I mean, yes, I could not be feeling the best that day, but I still had the doctors. They were so nice and smiley and asking me what I needed. And it's a comforting space. The Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center is a wonderful place. And honestly, I know a lot of people are probably like, what? Like, a center for cancer is a great place, but honestly, it is. When you're there, you really get that feeling of you're being cared for. The people there care for you and they want to heal you.
So Makari's care at the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center has been phenomenal. It's like we're walking in to see some old family or friends. It's been amazing.
So last year I was turning 16 and big sweet 16 parties, but on top of COVID, on top of fighting cancer, we were like, okay, what is connected with people of color and supporting them and funds for disorders and healing and research? And we thought, OMG, we live right next door to a sickle cell survivor. So that was just like, oh my gosh, we can give to sickle cell. We'd aimed for $16,000 in research money, And we ended up raising like almost 20.
Ultimately, she has used this to help other people and to be a light for other people.
She would not talk about her accolades, but she'll talk about this and want to encourage people and lift people up, and that's special. If we could help raise money, that's what it's about. Hopefully, we'll have a cure for cancer completely one day.
Then when you see things like Sawyer's bone marrow transplant, if I can give money and know that it's really going to help the cause, I do it all day long.
There are no words that amount to the gratitude that I have for every dollar, every cent being given towards the Aflac Cancer Blood Disorder Center. They are doing good work, and it's going to a good cause. And because of it, I have living, breathing proof that it works.
Childhood cancer is a monster. I had no idea the magnitude of it, but when we arrived at St. Jude, they were able to give her therapy that specifically targeted those cancer cells. So Hazel is proof that the research that they are doing is working. St. Jude is life, and we are forever grateful.
St. Jude is love. Everybody is here for this one purpose, and it's to cure these kids. It means that I got more time with my daughter. I love this place. They changed my life.